You ready, Rebecca?
Almost.
Almost.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. It says live on my screen.
Yeah, just takes a second to kick in on the YouTube. There we go. Gary, we're live.
Very good. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you. I'm glad you could make it on this wonderful evening. So thank you for joining Hudson 7 Drinking Water Council's virtual monthly meeting. Today is Thursday. What is today? May 19th. My name is Gary Bassett. I am the mayor of the village of Rhinebeck and chair of the Hudson 7 Council. The Hudson 7 meetings are recorded and streamed live on our YouTube channel page. A link to the page can be found on our website, www.hudson7.org. The video of all meetings and minutes are available to the public on the Hudson website as well. If a member of the public would like to participate during the public comment section of our virtual meeting, please review our procedures for public or written comment on our website. Hudson 7 council members, please control your own mute buttons. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you're not speaking to avoid background noise and any feedback. When you wish to speak, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Before you speak, please state your name and municipality for the audio listeners. In attendance tonight, I'll go down through roll. I have myself, Mayor Gary Bassett, Village of Rhinebeck. I'm going to go in the order I see him on the screen. Randy Allstat, present.
Present.
Right. And for the city of Poughkeepsie, Lynn Ruggiero for town of Hyde Park.
Present.
Russ, town of Gilmore. And Shannon Harris.
Present.
Town of Opus.
Just a note, I can on for the first 30 minutes.
We'll try to get through it. And we have other members attending. We have Brad Barkley from Dutchess County and your Europa McGovern from Ulster County. And also in attendance tonight is Nick from town of Esopus Water Treatment Plant and Grant for DWSP2 and our own and favorite Dan Shapley from Riverkeeper and a technical advisor. So welcome everybody. Now I'm going to go into the meeting. Roll call, and we have a quorum. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/21/22. Do I have a second?
Second.
Hi, Lynn. All right. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all voting members, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. All right, Rebecca, I'm going to turn it over to you for. I'm going to take on the first one. Right. Paul Malrose is not here tonight, but I would like to mention Paul Malrose, who's one of our technical advisors, is being honored by the Hudson River Watershed Alliance as a 2022 watershed wave makers, and that's going to be scheduled on June 8th. I'd like you to read the article that we submitted on behalf of Hudson 7 to the Watershed Alliance that helped get Paul this wonderful nominations. And so if you don't have a chance, please reach out to Paul and thank him for his work that he's done for all of us here at the Hudson 7 Council and being recognized for the Hudson River Watershed Alliance in 2022.
I think Paul is here.
Did he join? I don't see him. Paul?
Nope.
No. Okay.
May I add just quickly, Gary, that there are tickets available for that event, and it's a fundraiser for the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. So if anyone wants to be there to celebrate Paul and meet the other honorees, it's a really nice event. I've been there before. The Hudson River Watershed Alliance is another organization that
yeah, well, unfortunately, Paul could not make it to the event, but he will be recognized for that.
Paul's on his way in, FYI.
All right. It's a long trip. Rebecca, do you want to go take it over from the rest for the communications, please?
Sure. Let me pull it up. One moment, Gary. Just was helping Paul in. All right. So communications that came in, Paul Melrose was interviewed on John Bowermaster's The Green Hour regarding the salt front in the Hudson. And also there was a discussion about Chippy and Quebec's First Nations and the briefing that was hosted by Riverkeeper or supported by Riverkeeper. There's another item, the Times Union also did a article on the salt front in the Hudson. Ulster County Water Quality Coordinating Committee meeting agenda that Europa had submitted and sent along to the Hudson 7. Michael J. Keating, just to put on the record, is the new executive director of the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority. And Central Hudson's recent draft focused remedial alternatives analysis, as well as the New York State DEC's response, also came through. All of these items that are not here linked, hyperlinked, are in the Hudson 7 Council source materials that accompanied the agenda. And that's what we have for this month.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, let's go into county updates. Europa, I have you on the list first.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'll actually defer to Brad Berkeley and Duchess for an update on the Hudson 7 coordinator position that we've been continuing discussions on. So over to you, Brad. Thank you.
So as Rebecca was saying, we're trying to set up, I'm sorry, we're talking before the meeting about trying to set up a meeting to continue our discussions. I've been meeting with our county attorney's office to kind of work our way a path forward. Ulster County's been working on an agreement to provide for their share. I think the way well, I think everyone agrees that we need to hire a firm to look at amending the IMA and the bylaws at a minimum. And our county attorney believes that we need to make sure that we add the counties as members to allow us to, now we don't have to be voting members, but, and I was going to ask Gary, he knows the most about how, when we were added as liaisons, was that done officially or as part of the bylaws? So we'll have to look at that anyways as part of the discussion going forward, because there's a concern that we can't give you money unless we're basically in some way associated with through the IMA. So that's where we are. I think we're going to meet and go forward. And thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Brad. We can review our bylaws, but I think we remember amending it to include non-voting members, but we could go back.
Okay.
But look, Randy has his hand up.
Well, it seems that, we have the town of Poughkeepsie, we have the town of Rhinebeck as users, but they're not actually taking water from the river. And the county is definitely taking water from us through down to Dutchess County, and they're doing it through Hyde Park. So we can work the language to make that happen.
I believe you're right on that. Also, it's actually been discussed that with the water authority taking over the Hyde Park system, it really operates as a county water district now, and not as a municipal system. So again, there's a lot of different things we have to work on, but they're all very solvable, situations.
Yes.
And I would also like to suggest maybe opening up a dialogue with Mike as the new executive director of the Water Authority. My wife is very happy to be stepping down from that position, and I know Mike will follow through and lead that organization well.
Brad, I have a kind of a technical question. I thought the Dutchess County Wastewater Authority was not part of the Dutchess County government. It's a separate agency.
You're right. It's an authority. And so the systems are actually owned as county districts. And then there's an agreement. There's actually an operating a service agreement through the legislature every year. Anyways, you should get that directly from the horse's mouth instead of secondhand from me, probably.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for continuing to work on this. And for those who don't know, we do have a doodle poll out to get the committee back together again with Dutchess County government, including Brad and their attorney, to convene that meeting as soon as possible. Okay.
Gary,
Randy?
I just want to add that we have an office at our water plant with a computer all set up for whoever you select to be ready to go.
Yes, thank you, Randy.
Greatly appreciated.
All right, moving on.
Do you want, Gary, before you move on, if I could suggest, it sounded like Brad was suggesting amending the bylaws to make sure that the counties are included, and that seems like a good step, and just to even just to authorize checking and adding them if they aren't as non-voting members that are named. And I think I think I have the latest version that I pulled up. I think it might need an update even just because of the elections, a few months ago now. So maybe just an update on membership would be worth a quick resolution to have that done.
Well, and it's the only thing that we are looking at probably is the way that it was adopted. It'll probably have to be readopted by municipal resolution, which is always a fun process.
Right, so, yeah, Dan, since you brought up, we can have a brief discussion on it. My thought process was, since we're going to be going through and amending it to include the project coordinator, we would do that in conjunction with whatever process we need to add the counties. As Brad mentioned, there is alternative ways, there are several ways in which to do this in terms of including their membership.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And
I see Rebecca has the current bylaws in front of me. I don't think I was looking at the most recent one. So
Yeah, it does have Dutchess and Ulster County agencies with Brad and Europa already added.
As non-voting members. Okay. So then it's just a question of language. If there's any language, I know there is some language in the bylaws as to how any municipal contributions would work, and that would have to be obviously readjusted.
Right.
To make sure we allow, the right process. And I think the other thing that it really does make sense to look at yourself long term and to give a thought to whether incorporating provides you advantages that you might not otherwise have.
Correct.
Can I just,
all good points why we need to discuss with legal.
right. I just want to say what Dan is saying is right. In the bylaws, there is an older list. The actual bylaws, an older list as of 8/10/21. It might be that, I don't know if you want to keep the voting members in the bylaws or not, and keep it general or not, but just to say that what is in the bylaws is actually the municipal members. You could keep it open and just include the counties, and then the updates on the website, just because it's always changing. So it's up to you, but Dan, it's a good catch. We either need to update the bylaws with the updated council members, or we remove them from the bylaws and just name the municipalities and the counties. Maybe there's another idea, but just to say we should do one or the other here, because it's updated on the website, as you saw.
Yeah, well, one of the options is to do it, you continually update on the website, but you name the positions instead of the personal, the people.
Right.
That way you don't have to change the bylaws every time you change personnel.
maybe that's something to discuss
You
or
know, it's
vote.
all, we can all look at it at the same time.
Right. Yeah,
But I know, I'm sorry, one other thing real quick. I know it has been expressed that the municipalities in the Hudson 7 do want to maintain their own autonomy in decisions. And that's clear with both counties. And we're trying to legally create a mechanism where we can do what we want to do without, changing the balance, to be pompous, the balance of power, let's say, in Hudson 7.
mhm. Thank you, Brad, for bringing it up. So that was my comment as well. And that's why I think we need to discuss, and we'll go into the discussion. There's going to be changes. I don't know if we're going to be incorporated or not to how to do this. And so we need legal advice and bring it back to this committee before we move forward.
I'd just like to ask what the status is of the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority with the Hudson 7, since they operate the Hyde Park plant. Probably you guys have discussed this in the past, but when I communicate with them, but I really don't ever get any responses. So I don't know what to do.
So then that might be a good question for you. How does Hyde Park work through, since you're a member of the municipality and Dutchess County Wastewater Authority runs the Hyde Park treatment plant, what's the mechanism between the municipality and them?
I actually have to research that. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
I'll say that prior to COVID, we were in touch with the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority, who were really responsive. I'd have to go and see who I spoke to. I spoke to someone there when we were organizing our meetings and trying to do a tour and have meetings within the 5 water plants. So we were all set to host one of our Hudson 7 meetings there. And then COVID came, so it didn't occur. But we were in touch with staff there at that time, a couple of years ago. So,
Emily, you had your hand up?
Not to belabor it, but it really is separate from the municipality. It's really the DCWWA that runs that district. And I would suggest maybe if we need better communication, we should go to some of the leadership there and talk about that, because I'm not sure that the operator is the best person.
Well,
I brought it up.
the only thing,
Go ahead, Brad.
Jerry, the only thing I would say is you did get, notification that Mike's now going to be the executive director. So why don't you reach out?
Yeah.
Whenever I send anything out, I send it to Mike.
And also for Lynn, because we do have a municipality that's on our council, which has some responsibility here to work with us and work with the Dutchess County Wastewater Authority. So maybe Lynn, you and I should figure that out. If you get a chance.
The only thing I would say, Gary, is that, with the water supply protection planning stuff, that's based on land use control. And Dutchess County Water Authority has no land use control. So it's still the municipal responsibilities in a lot of cases when you're dealing with the health department and, some of these other situations. And if you're going to have any strategies that you want to put in place to protect the water, then it's going to have to be through the municipalities. The water authority doesn't have that type of power.
Correct. Well, we have a lot to do. Our goal is to have this wrapped up in July. So we're going to try to move forward as quick as possible. But Brad and Europa, thank you for your work that you're doing. Okay, is there anybody on for public comment?
there's not.
There's not, I don't see anybody. All right, moving on. All right, actions. You'll see. So let's, again, we were just spent a lot of time talking about the Hudson 7 coordinator position, which our goal is to hire by July 1st. Is there any questions on that subject? We did send a thank you letter to both County Executive Mark Molinaro and Patrick Ryan. And we do have a meeting that we're working together, pull together the hiring committee again to work with the county on that process. Is there any other discussion needed?
So that thank you letter is something we need to do. We haven't done it yet. It's on the agenda in the case you need to.
Oh, we did it.
No, not from our Hudson 7 account. We haven't written a letter. We should, and that's why it's here on the agenda tonight to discuss.
Well, let's discuss, because I did write the letter. Okay, and so let me circle back with you on that. Okay, we're going to move on. Dutchess County, the New York State Drinking Water Protection Program. I think I saw Grant. Grant, you're here?
I am indeed here. We don't have a whole lot to talk about. We did we already talk about having the drinking water source protection subcommittee meeting? I've lost track of time. But yes, so, okay, so we did have that meeting, and it was, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was Friday. Anyways, we had that. So we are currently in the process of working on formulating goals and visions for the drinking water source protection program based on the Hudson 7's overall goals and priorities, based so far going off of the existing IMA. We are currently working on identifying protection areas to identify the most appropriate and meaningful protection strategies that are feasible for the Hudson 7. Dan, Paul, I have not forgotten about you folks. We gotta take care of some things on our end first, and then we'll get back to you about following up regarding the mapping efforts. We are also working on starting to look at potential contaminant sources for the Hudson 7, and we will be in further communication once drafts are further along, such that the 7 municipalities involved can all provide input on how things are going. Yes, not much to share at this time. Besides that, we are working on things.
Brad, is your hand up for this?
Yeah, it is actually. Grant, I know you've been in contact with Devin, who does our GIS, and I believe that we have some of the mapping that you guys have been discussing.
Right, perfect. Yeah, we've also been in touch with Devin a lot regarding the Red Hook mapping efforts. Devin is fantastic. Yeah, so please pass that on.
So I would
to him.
say he's also would be available to help with this as anything we need on this as well.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I think we plan on interfacing with him in our near future. Or is he the preferred avenue of contact? Because we just want to get an idea of what sort of information already exists within.
Yeah,
Dutchess
I would
County.
absolutely go to him, because if you ask me, I'm going to have to go to him.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the plan right now is to start compiling all of the vast amounts of information and prior work that have already been done in Dutchess County with regards to water resources. And then similarly, we'll start talking to Europa and anybody else on the Ulster County side to get an idea of what information is out there.
So Grant, I'd only like to, Gary, I'd like to comment that we have shared our mapping for the
Yes.
line with Devin.
Okay, great. So I'll reach out to him about that.
Okay. Any other discussion on DWSP2? Okay. So Hudson River drinking water issues. Eric, I don't see Eric.
I don't think you can make it today.
Okay. Okay, we're going to keep moving. The next topic was the RIBS, the Rotating Integrated Basin Studies.
Gary, before we move on, do you want any update on the report and the DEC's letter or no for Central Hudson? Just to
Sure.
close the loop. I don't know if anybody here wants to just give an overview of that since it's on the agenda. If not, we can move on.
And who has
Well,
it?
I reviewed some of it, and basically what AECOM is recommending is capping with a modified, what do they call it? Natural recovery. So they're going to use a capping material and then biological activities to consume the pollutants. And what they also say, basically, any of the things we tried don't work. They were very positive about including us in their evaluations. They mentioned the Hudson 7 and the Poughkeepsie plant several times. So that's a real positive, I thought. And then I feel like DC is saying that they must do a lot more evaluation. I don't think they rejected the alternative they selected. They just want more information, and they're pushing cofferdams, where they would put a cofferdam around the whole place and dig it out. But that turned to be one of the most expensive alternatives with a very long time to do it, like 14 years. So that's my update.
Wow.
Wow, with the proximity to the intakes, how would you do cofferdams? It's fascinating. Paul, I had a quick question. Have they been working around there at all? Because when the Mid-Hudson Bridge was closed the other day, I ended up walking over the walkway, and I noticed quite a black sheen kind of coming out of the fall kill.
Brad, I don't know, but Randy's the best person to tell you what their activities are right now.
My
Okay.
understanding is that they are not working, not doing anything in the river, and that the river tends to burp every so often, which causes oil underneath the river, underneath the bridge.
Okay. I was wondering because it was interesting from that you could see it from the walkway.
Right.
Yeah,
we've seen, if I could jump in real quick, we've seen and gotten a lot of reports both of sheens bubbling up from the coal tar, which has happened since it's been there, presumably, decades, happens at low tide and under some conditions. But then also we've gotten a lot of reports of that appearance of the Fallkill Creek looking like there's something suspicious coming out of it. But in other cases, it's often been that it's clear water contrasting with the Hudson that's more turbid, and it has an appearance. You see that contrast, and it kind of raises eyebrows. But we've seen that frequently, so I don't know if that might explain what you saw or not, Brad.
Yeah, just to clarify, you're saying that you saw like a sheen on the Fallkill itself?
Well, no, it's like at the mouth of the Fallkill into the Hudson. And it wasn't so much a sheen, it's just a very it looked like a darker liquid, almost like an oil, but it was a different color. Now I know that the history of the site right at the Fallkill, that was a paint plant that burned, so that it's got a lot of history in and of itself right on the Fallkill, but. I was just concerned with the history with the coal tar that it looked like almost like that type of thing.
I'll dig up a photo, Brad. I think we have one. I won't be able to do it tonight, but it at least shows what we've seen there in the past. I'm just curious if it might match what you've seen.
Send it along to me. I don't need to take more time tonight. You know, I apologize.
No, I mean, I think the other point, though, I would like to make is if, I think we need to take the approach of if you see something, say something and, call it into the DEC hotline and let them, investigate if there is a concern that any of us observe.
One of these things that Randy's talking about burping, they talk about bubbling up. And one of the problems is when it bubbles up, it could go right through this cap if it was sand. And the other problem is it really doesn't work too well on steep slopes. And obviously the bank is a steep slope.
109 feet in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca is sharing some contact information.
I would be interested in seeing the pictures, Dan, because now I saw Emily said she had seen kind of the same kind of thing, and I would be interested to see if that's what it was.
I'll follow up with you.
Thanks.
Very good. Okay. Ribs, the letter, Paul and Dan, you want to contact and share the letter for the rotating integrated basin studies?
Yeah,
think-
I'm sorry, I missed that. That's directed at me.
Yeah.
Either one, either you or Paul. I don't care.
Yeah, I can speak to it quickly. I think we got the letter in. It identified a bunch of stream segments that come down to the Hudson that either haven't been assessed by the DEC or have old data or haven't really been assessed based on the use as a drinking water source. So we were urging them to take what I can't talk right now. I think we've heard from a couple different sort of angles that DEC's got the letter. They seem to be considering it closely and are considering what kind of special project they might be able to do to help meet some of the needs that were expressed in the letter. So I think more to come, and hopefully we'll hear, I think, some follow up from DEC directly. And if I remember right, I think probably a request to join one of these meetings so that they can discuss it with us all.
Paul, anything to add?
No, I think Dan did a really good job. He did most of it. The one thing that I was concerned about that Dan added was that the Rondout Creek is unassessed, which is one of our major sources of water. So Dan put that at the top of the list.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, let's move on. Emily. Are you still with us, Emily?
Yes.
Do you have enough time? Can you talk about a little bit what's going on?
So the Chippy group, we formed a working group, and I think at the last meeting I reported back on our most recent meeting with that. We're making progress. I am finding myself just not being able to keep up with this project and asked for help. And Gary, I think you said that you would be willing to take the reins for a little while. So that would be, or more than a little while. That would be fantastic. I mean, we've really made a lot of progress. We're at a point where we and TDI have, are working through a plan for how we can do the testing and monitoring that that the Hudson 7 has proposed. But there are obviously a lot of details still to be worked out. We did get an offer of help from DEC, which is a good thing. But I think that we need to, keep the momentum going to work out those details. And so I'll be glad to work with Gary and Rebecca to keep that moving.
All right, thank you, Emily. Yes, we'll figure out a way to keep this because we can't just walk away from this.
No.
And
Well-
I did bring it up at a previous meeting that Paul had. I did have an opportunity to meet with the Commissioner Basil last week and Kelly, and we had a sidebar conversation on just this topic, which they were very interested in. They know about, they're aware of, and they offered, whether they do or not, but I'm going to follow up with them. They offered to help us out in terms of how we can, how they can help us move this along in regard to the protection of our drinking water and the intake. So
One of the things that Emily added was that DEC wants the TDI to do their pilot testing this fall, 12 months before they finish the EMCP. And I thought that was a pretty big jump. So we really have to get moving on this.
But if you want to have any impact on the project, probably the longer lead time between the testing and the actual project, the better.
Yeah, exactly. What Kelly Turturro and Heather Gearloff said to me was that the TDI, I hope I get this right, the TDI has to complete their EM and CP a year, or they have to submit their draft a year before they start work so that there's time to go through the draft and edit and stuff like that. And so that will be summer of 2023, but that you can't do the pilot testing in the summer because there's only the seasonal times in which the river bottom can be disturbed. And so they thought that we should advocate for the pilot testing to be done this fall, in fall of 2022, which is the season when they're allowed to do that work, so that we would have the results and be able to influence the draft that comes out in summer of 2023. So it was a good thought process that those things, like you said, Brad, really have to be front loaded in order to be able to get into the process of developing the plan.
and why can't they do it in the summer?
The sturgeon,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't remember the seasons, but in my notes, they had suggested fall of 2023 or 2022. So I'm assuming fall is an acceptable season, and we'd have to look at those details.
Okay.
Yeah, it would most likely be in the fall because they would have the same time constraints as the Central Hudson dredging project in the fall, or rather, the availability is in the fall.
Yeah.
Paul, you had also submitted to the Hudson 7 both a communication plan that you had drafted as well as a pre-positioning of potable drinking water.
Yes. This is also going to be part of the testing and monitoring protocol. The communication plan, I think Grant recommended that, which is basically a list of who to contact both at TDI and at the plants. And Bill suggested to put in the municipal leaders, so I'll try to do that too. And then the second one was pre-positioning potable water. What I'm trying to do is, instead of waiting for something to happen, is to have water like quart gallon containers, or I should say quart containers of drinking water, and also to pre-position water tankers at the hospitals and other medical facilities. So I did get one comment back on that. I missed a home care facility. So, and Gary told me to put schools in, so I did that. But that's all going to depend on when it's going to be done. But if it's going to be done in the fall, schools will obviously be in. So what I'm really asking is for your help, because, I'm just going through Google or whatever. I don't know all the facilities that you guys have in your towns. So
Gary, I hate to offer work for other county employees, but I would think Dana Smith and emergency response at the county's facility, they have contact with, they not only have a communication system that can handle police, fire, and others emergency people, but he has contacts with pretty much everybody. So I would think maybe county emergency response would be a great addition.
I can reach out to them, Brad. That's a good suggestion. I know in the past, we've been, as a municipality, it's been up to us to find our emergency water source if we had an issue associated with the water.
No, I would say more in terms of contacts, emergency contacts, and but then also, that's where the hazard mitigation plan comes out of for the county. So
I think that's an excellent idea, Brad. We can do it with Ulster County too.
yeah, they should have the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Emily, you and I should just get together and just share notes, and then we'll figure out how to move forward as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Gary. That would be great.
Just one of the other things is when I'm talking about potable water, I'm just talking about the water for people to drink.
Right.
So it's not going to flush your toilet or take a shower. That water is going to have to be still provided by the municipalities, except if the pollution's really bad, they probably won't be able to do that. So there is a lot of planning, not just with TDI, but also with all the municipalities.
Emily, if I take some of the work off your plate from the village of Rhinebeck, can I keep you on? Just
Let's talk separately, Gary.
yeah, I know. Yeah, you're great. You're a great asset to have. So thank you.
No, I want to help. I just don't want this stuff to be, languishing in my box. Somebody needs to keep it moving.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We kept the Esopus Creek on the schedule, Paul. I know there's another meeting coming up at some time in the future. I don't know the date for that.
Yeah. The meeting is
just keep this abreast, in our forefront so we know what's happening.
Yeah, the Ashokan Release Working Group is going to meet with DEC and DEP on June 10th or June 17th. We don't know. The communications between DEP and DEC and us is just horrible. This September, the Delaware Aqueduct is going to be shut down, so all the water is going to come from the Catskill, the Ashokan, except maybe 10 or 20% from the Croton system. So the Ashokan Reservoir will be really under stress. They're not going to be throwing very high turbidities down to the city, so we have to be concerned about that. The other thing is they're going to have the Ashokan Reservoir at 100% in September, and September is usually when it's low. And what does all that mean? Well, if there's a tropical storm, we're going to have a major flood. So I'm trying. And, I know that's not a concern of the Hudson 7, but it should be, because anytime you have a flood, you get really lousy water going into the creek in the Hudson River.
Well, I thought that was a major concern because of, obviously September, October is hurricane season.
Well, not according to DEP.
Oh. Okay. my experience with high water volume is always in that time frame here.
And New York City's weather department agrees with you, Gary.
All right, so I guess, Paul, we should keep this on, just try to keep abreast. So do you mind if we keep it on the agenda and just so you can give us a brief update what's happening?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And Gary, just as background on that, I had heard, I'm on the East of Hudson Sporting Committee for DEP lands. And what they were telling the recreational people was if they close this, to be prepared for the Croton stuff, the aqueduct to be way, way down. So they are expecting to be really running tight on water.
Okay. Interesting stuff. All right, that concludes the agenda for this evening, unless there's something that anybody else would like to add in quickly.
I just sent out a cyber security memo a couple of weeks ago. And yesterday we had a salt front update meeting, which I thought was great. Gary attended. We can give you more information at a later date.
Very good. Another well-attended meeting by a lot of people, so it was great. Randy.
Yeah, last week there was an exercise in Kingston about an oil spill. It was conducted by U.S. Coast Guard, and I wasn't contacted, and I don't know if any of the utilities were contacted, but Rhinebeck surely should have been contacted of a major spill in Kingston. I don't know if you heard anything, Gary.
Not that I can recollect that came across my desk.
I think it was done on May 12th. So maybe we should see if anyone was contacted, and if they were, that'd be great. If not, we really need to talk to the Coast Guard.
All right, let me follow up.
Yeah, Asopus should have been contacted.
Yeah.
Nick, are you still here? Nicholas?
Yes,
you-
ma'am, I'm here.
Hi, were you contacted about the tabletop
No,
exercise?
I was not. I certainly wasn't. Well, do you know what the exercise was?
The exercise was a barge was discharging into the oil place in Kingston, and it all ended up in the river instead of in the Kingston. So that was the exercise, and they were going to go ahead and do some work on how they were going to make phone calls and such to tell people about it. But I think they left the water utilities out. I was supposed to have attended it, but it fell off my calendar. I missed it. So I know that Riverkeeper was there, so maybe we can get some more from John Lipscomb.
Yeah, okay. Who do you know who the lead agency in charge was on that?
Yeah, United States Coast Guard.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll search my archives as well, Randy, see if I can find anything, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, we weren't contacted at the water plant in Poughkeepsie, so I kind of doubt anybody was. But that was part of the exercises to make sure that
Right.
utilities were contacted. So
Yep.
I'll follow up.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let's hopefully give everybody 10 minutes back here in respect to your time. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Russ, thank you. All right, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye. So approved. Have a wonderful evening.